Happy birthday, America, and in honor of our country's independence, today we are revealing the 2024 Chargers All-Fireworks team.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 9 seasons, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you for everyone making us your first listen today, and to make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Well, Daniel, of course, it is Independence Day, and we have to talk about the all-fireworks team, the most explosive athletes on this football team, talking about some rookies, talking about the guys that are always on the list, and some guys that could be on that list next year. And then we're going to talk about Jim Harbaugh, maybe turning into the next Andy Reid. Andy Reid, when he was with the Eagles, didn't quite get it done. Went over to the Chiefs and has won a lot. He's got 3 of those rings to show for it. And let's talk about who the most impactful free agent signing is going to be.
That's such a tough one, man, because there's so many dudes you could argue could make the most impact out of this free agent class that the Chargers have this year. But it starts with the 2024 All-Fireworks team, at least the 3rd annual. It might even go back further than that. One of the everydayers might have to do some research there. But at least this is the 2024 All-Fireworks team. I haven't told David my full list, but for me, this is where it starts. Justin Herbert, so effortlessly explosive. He makes explosivity look nonchalant. And that's why you have to give him credit and put him as the captain of the All-Fireworks team. Yeah, you know, it doesn't seem like he's always doing big things because he's made it so normal. Second on the list, Darius Davis, all-pro return man, dangerous on offense too. Derwin James has made it on every all-fireworks team list. Hardest hitting safety in the league, big playmaker. Period. Khalil Mack, sacks or fireworks, blows people up in the running game. Sounds like an all-firework team guy to me. And then the last one is a little surprising. JK Dobbins I have on the Chargers all-fireworks team this year. If you go back to 2020, third most 20-plus yard rushers in the NFL, 20-plus yard rushes in the NFL that year amongst running backs. First in breakaway percentage that year, meaning runs that went at least 15 yards. And also, again, in 2022, he was 5th in breakaway percentage. So he has been a home run hitter when he's out there. That is my all-fireworks team for 2024.
I love it. I love it. And obviously, I'm going to have some similar names on my list as well. Of course, first and foremost, it's the human highlight reel, Justin Herbert. This is a guy that brings the fireworks every single time he steps on the football field. The guy makes incredible throws, can make plays that nobody else on this planet can make. And then, of course, Derwin James, speed to power. He's a predator. I mean, when he sees his prey and he locks in, man, he explodes like nobody else that I've seen. It's really fun to watch him play football. Darius Davis, the home run threat, the guy that can take the punt or kick back 60, 70, 85, 87 yards. That guy is electric. I love watching him play football. Khalil Mack, the explosive power. And my surprise here is from the linebacker core. This is a guy who was drafted to the Chargers, left, and then came back. And, of course, I'm talking about that knockout stopping power of Denzel Perryman. I love watching Denzel Perryman play football. Feel like this is a guy that is a major bringer of the fireworks because when he hits you, you feel it next week.
Yeah, he was on my honorable mentions for my team. Also, you know, Alohi Gilman I have on my honorable mentions.
I like that.
Tuli Tuipulotu honorable mention as well. I have also my all-rookie fireworks team, David, something that I think last year Darius Davis was on. I know that Quentin Johnston was also on that last year. We thought he was going to be fireworks. This is who I have on my all-rookie team. I have Ladd McConkey, 4.3 speed, ability to make big plays, super explosive in and out of his breaks.
Yeah. Took
some short passes and sweeps at Georgia all the way to the house. And then Tarheeb Still, and someone I know that you love as well. And David, I mean, you're talking about fireworks, you're talking about big plays. Tarheeb Still is a big playmaker and can deliver big hits. Those are the guys that I'm most looking forward to as far as the rookies I expect fireworks from in 2024.
Yeah, really excited about Ladd McConkey, the speed, the lateral quickness, the ability to really make people miss in the open field. He did all of that when he was in college, and I expect that to continue at the NFL level. If he's able to stay healthy, I expect some firework plays out of him almost on a weekly basis. And then, yeah, Tarheeb still is a guy I'm extremely excited about. I love the tackling ability. I love the ball skills, the awareness. Seems like he just is in the right place at the right time, has sticky coverage, but he's able to get his hands on some footballs and make some game-changing firework type of plays, which I think, the Chargers have desperately needed in their secondary. They need somebody who can take the ball away, get it back to the offense. And my last guy on my rookie team is Kimani Vidal. Kimani Vidal, the running back the Chargers were able to take in this year's past draft. Guy is obviously from a Hall of Fame lineage as well. Obviously, he's the great nephew of the incredible Hank Aaron, of course, one of the best baseball players to ever live. Just love the way he was able to wiggle in and out of tackles, the power, the blocking ability. He's definitely has potential to really take off if he's given the opportunity this season.
Yeah, and was a big playmaker as well. All these guys, big playmakers. I mean, if you're talking about making big plays, Tarheeb still 5 interceptions last year, which is crazy that he still made it to the 5th round. But the last part I have here, David, is the guys that are waiting to explode. And this is the list that I have. Asante Samuel Jr. hasn't filled the potential yet. It still feels like it's waiting to explode. I mean, he's had 2 interceptions in each of his first 3 seasons, and we saw him have 3 in a game, right? So we know the potential is there. And outside of that 1 3-interception game, we've never seen him have, more than that in a full 17-game regular season. Quentin Johnston was on this list last year, made the list but didn't deliver, but also has all the physical traits that you look for in somebody to make this team. There was a reason why he was on the thumbnail last year. I mean, he should be a firework type of player. And then also Daiyan Henley, explosive player that has potential to make big plays. These were the stats he put up his last 2 seasons in college, right? Because we barely got to see him last year. 209 tackles, 5 interceptions, 4 sacks, 15 tackles for loss, and 3 forced fumbles.
Yeah.
That's fireworks. He has a chance to make an impact at all different parts of the defense. I mean, those are Derwin James type of, stat-filling sheets right there. Like that is a really, really incredible stat line he was able to put together his last couple of years at college. Those are my guys where it's like, I know they have the fireworks in them, but we're still waiting to see him explode.
Yeah, I have both those guys as well. I think the third guy that I have here is a guy that you have on your honorable mention list who started off really hot and honestly has already, put together a very pro-ready game with his ability to stop the run and his ability to pass rush. It's Tuli Tuipulotu. He had 4.5 sacks last year, but he definitely hit a wall where he kind of slowed down, and his effect on the game was not as large or as apparent as it was earlier on in the season.
Mostly
I feel
as a
like
pass rusher.
It's just
right?
opportunity, right? I mean, you had a couple of fantastic guys that are in front of him, and that's still going to be the case this year. But hopefully they're able to build packages to get him involved, keep him fresh so he can still be impactful, because he has all the tools to be a great edge rusher in this league for a very long time.
Yeah, and already as a rookie, one of the best run defending edge rushers in the game. I mean, he also kind of has a Tasmanian devil type of play style. Like he in college, like I think he had 13 plus sacks in his last season at USC.
I think 13.5, I believe.
And like he probably left 5 or 6 on the table just because his play style was so wild. He was coming in so hot that he left some production in the backfield. And I think as the season wore on last year, you saw a little bit of that. I mean, he never really stopped being an insane run defender. Yeah. Where the drop-off was felt was mostly as a pass rusher. You shouldn't see that if you have, a moderately more healthy team this year, moderately more healthy Joey Bosa. But also, even if Joey Bosa were to go down, you have Bud Dupree there. So you still have a guy that can take away some of those snaps, so you're not just making Tuli go out there and play 50 to 60 snaps in a game. You can keep him fresh.
More than he's ever played. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's just a lot different. And this should be the best version of Tuli yet. And if you're saying that, as knowing what he did as a rookie, that's pretty incredible. But we still have more great stuff to get into, including why Athir wants to wonder why no one talks about the fact that Andy Reid couldn't get big things done until he had Patrick Mahomes. Could Jim Harbaugh be looking at this same path? Because the trajectory is very similar. We're getting into that and some potential breakout candidates and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys about eBay Motors because passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You can always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. David, we have more great stuff to get into because it is also a Fan Mail Friday. So as much as we love getting into the fireworks, we wanted to also get you guys involved in today's show as well because it is a Friday. And we have, of course, our number one caller in and fan mail person. It is Athir who's calling in with a really good question. I understand why he's asking. Let's see what he has for us this week.
Dan, David, this is you, baby, Athir. Okay, I got a question. Everybody is hating on Herbert. Everybody hating the Chargers. Everybody is hating Harbaugh and the NFL landscape. Andy Reid continues to get his flowers as the best coach in the NFL because he's got 3 Super Bowl titles with Mahomes. My question is, how many Super Bowl titles did he win in Philly before he got Mahomes? 4 consecutive years, number 1 seed in the NFC Championship. Lost. How come nobody is talking about that? Let me hear you, my boys. Love you. Let's go.
Happy 4th of July, Athir. We love you as well. And I mean, it's a great question. I think the answer to it is this. Once you win, everyone kind of forgets how you got there or the failures that you had leading up to it. But I think it's a great point to bring up because you're right. When Andy Reid had Donovan McNabb, also a really good quarterback, he couldn't win the big one. 4 straight NFC Championship games that he made it to, 1 Super Bowl appearance that they lost. Very, very similar to when Jim Harbaugh went to 3 straight NFC Championship games. Also had, at both of them had Alex Smith at one point. Andy Reid couldn't win with Alex Smith. They had great regular seasons. Couldn't win the big ones in the playoffs with Alex Smith until they got Patrick Mahomes. Jim Harbaugh made it to the Super Bowl, 3 straight NFC Championship games, couldn't get over the hump with Colin Kaepernick or Alex Smith. I definitely see, why he's bringing this up, David. That is a very kind of similar thing. Maybe for Jim Harbaugh, he is what Andy Reid has, and Patrick Mahomes, he now has with Justin Herbert.
Well, and also, Daniel, professional sports are all about what have you done for me lately? And the Chiefs are coming off back-to-back Super Bowl championships, and a couple of rings, a couple of Lombardi trophies there. So that's what's fresh on everybody's mind. But you do make up a great point. And the thing is in Philly, they had the coach, but they didn't have the right quarterback. In Kansas City, they got the coach, then they got the right quarterback, and then the magic started to happen. The Chargers have the quarterback, and they now believe that they have the coach to be able to navigate that quarterback to the Super Bowl. That's the goal. That's why they went out and made the move to get to get Jim Harbaugh, an established winner. That's why they spent the money. That's why they're trying to change how everything is done in this organization with who they have now leading the ship. So hopefully they have found the right tandem to get it done.
Yeah, and that's not to say that Justin Herbert is Patrick Mahomes. He's definitely the next tier down. But one of the things that Patrick Mahomes has always had on his side is he immediately got paired with a Hall of Fame quarterback, or a Hall of Fame head coach, and a Hall of Fame tight end. Like the Hall of Fame tight end and coach were not good enough with Alex Smith. It was good enough to get them, 12-4 regular seasons. Wasn't good enough to get them the biggest trophy in American sports, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's what Justin Herbert brings to potentially Jim Harbaugh. Because the other thing that Jim Harbaugh didn't have when he played or when he coached last in the NFL was the proof that he can win the big one, because that was the thing for Jim Harbaugh at the beginning of his collegiate career with Michigan specifically. It was he could not beat Ohio State. He could not beat Ohio State. He won a lot of games, could never beat Ohio State until he did. And then he beat him 3 times in a row. Yeah. And then, he made it to the playoffs, couldn't win in the playoffs, right? Got beat by Quentin Johnston's TCU Horned Frogs. And then the next year he does it all. He wins the whole thing and shows, hey, I can win the big game with a quarterback that's nowhere near what Justin Herbert is. Justin Herbert is more than good enough to be the reason that you win a quarter or win a Super Bowl. Not just he can win a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. We've seen bad quarterbacks win Super Bowls. The corpse of Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl. Justin Herbert can be the reason you win a Super Bowl. So that tandem with Jim Harbaugh is what the Chargers are hoping this can be. That duo is what they think. Like, they think that with this duo, they can get over the hump, and we'll see what happens. But we do have a great question here from Chris Saiz, another Hall of Fame Locked On Chargers question asker. And he asked today, what players do you want to see break out and either earn a spot on the roster or a starting spot on the team? Where are you going with this, David?
Yeah, so, I mean, guy I want to see break out is Quentin Johnston. I really want to see Quentin Johnston take off in his sophomore season, because if he is able to break out and he's able to make an impact, that's going to really soften the losses of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and the production that is, walking out the door when they left and, when they got traded and released. So that's who I want to see break out. And then another guy that I feel like could really make a tremendous impact if he's able to break out is Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is the defensive lineman that the Chargers took in the 4th round of the 2024 draft. This guy's a very technically sound football player, and one of the position groups we have the most question marks about is the defensive line. If he's able to come in and be a just quality defensive lineman, that could make a huge difference on the outlook of that position and the performance of the defense as a whole.
Yeah, I like that pick for sure. I mean, it's hard to say, breaking out because he's kind of breaking onto the scene because he's never been in the NFL before.
Yeah, I just think it's just
so
the impact
I get
that
what you're
make.
saying as far as, him saying, hey, do you see someone breaking out to either earn a spot on the roster, earning spot on the team? If he could earn a starting spot and obviously play well there, that would be great.
Yeah.
My first one's going to be Daiyan Henley. And to me, it's because I think that linebackers are so important in the Jesse Minter defense. And what I look at is the Ravens of 2022, a really good defense. And then they traded for Roquan Smith. And from there on out, they were the best defense in the entire NFL. Then I look back at what Jesse Minter had at Michigan. He had Junior Colson, who did so much for them. Also, Mikey Sammer still too, right? Another guy who, not dime linebacker, but a slot guy that made a big difference. But like, those are pieces that are super important. The linebacker specifically is super important. And we hope that Junior Colson can get up to speed and be that guy. But Daiyan Henley, to me, right, has the chance to not only be a really good run defender, but also be great in coverage as well, and has shown some pass coverage production in the past where it's like you could see him being a 3 or 4 interception guy a season. You could see him being a really, really good off-ball will linebacker that can make a lot of plays in coverage and also chase plays down from behind and be around the football. I love that one. I went a very similar but different direction with you on the defensive line just because it's someone that's been here now. My honorable mention, Scott Matlock. Similar reasons. And that, my thing is this. If he broke out, it would be such good news for the defense. Same with Justin Herbert, because it would just be one less huge question mark that you have for this team, right? And also, you look at what they have on the defensive line and on the edge rusher group, and it's like, hey, there's going to be single team opportunities for these guys rushing on the interior.
No doubt.
If you have Morgan Fox and then a Scott Matlock breaks out, and you have those two guys in the interior, right, to pair with the guys that you have on the outside, with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Bud Dupree and Tuipulotu, it would be great. And I think the other thing too about Scott Matlock specifically is you've already heard from the coaches how much they love the dude, right? Like,
he's turning into a leader.
Yeah, he's taking up a big leadership role in this team. And like, when you were watching him at Boise State, even though he was a later pick, like, he was a game-wrecking type of player. So I think he is a guy that could be one of your better interior pass rushers, and also has a chance,
of course,
to live in the backfield and create tackles for loss. And if you can create tackles for loss and big plays like that, what does it set up? Your ferocious pass rush.
That's right.
Getting those tackles for loss, getting teams into 2nd and 13 to 3rd and 10 plus, like, that is going to be huge for this team. So Justin Herbert, Scott Matlock, either way, if a interior defensive lineman can break out and now you have an above average player in that group, you're feeling a lot differently about this Chargers defense. And one of the biggest concerns that you have now isn't nearly as much of a concern. But we have a great question coming up about which of the Chargers free agent signings are going to have the biggest impact in 2024. David, I truly could make the argument for 7 players. Like, there are so many dudes it could be. You're going to find out who we pick for that and so much more, including if the Chargers did enough at center to bring in Bradley Bozeman, or if they maybe should have brought some more competition, at least for that backup role, and much more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys that this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. One of the things that is so tough going through life is feeling that you aren't reaching the milestones you should at a certain time or a certain age, especially when you're comparing yourself to others on social media. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives, and it might look like they have it all together on their Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have so you can start living your best life. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to your schedule. All you have to do, fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. David, we have more to get into on this Fan Mail Friday, including a great question about which of the Chargers free agents could make the biggest impact. And truly, it could be a lot of them. And also, impact can be positive and negative.
That's right.
Let's also not forget that. But I do want to tell everyone to make sure they're checking out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national 24/7 sports streaming channel where you're getting wall-to-wall coverage of every sport nationally, but with the insight and the expertise. The only way you can get that is with the Locked On local experts who cover their teams every single day. So make sure you guys go subscribe on YouTube to the Locked On Sports Today channel and also find it on the Amazon Fire TV free channels app. Dave, let's get to this next Fan Mail Friday question. It is a good one here from Big Daddy E, who says, which non-drafted offseason roster addition will have the biggest impact on the 2024 season? Happy 4th to you guys. Happy 4th to you, Big Daddy E. Happy birthday, America. David, who are you going with for this?
Yeah, so for me, for better or worse, that person is Kristian Fulton. Either he's able to come in, solidify one of those outside corner positions, and really resurrect his career and rebuild his value, or he crashes and burns, and the Chargers have to find somebody that can go out there and play on the outside, whether that's Cam Hart, whether that's Tarheeb Still, whether that's anybody else that's on the roster. But Kristian Fulton, to me, it's a big gamble because, this is a guy that's coming off of probably a couple of down years. Yeah, he's dealt with some injuries, but he's still young, and maybe a change of scenery and a different voice can get some better production out of him. The Chargers are certainly taking a big wager on that one.
Absolutely. He was the number one guy I had on this one too. And even though it was really tough, because I think, like you said, for better or for worse, if he's really bad, it does have a major impact on your defense. And also, he's going to get the starting reps to start with. So there's certain guys where you just don't know even what their opportunity will be to have that impact. DJ Chark, Gus Edwards, we know will have some role. Bud Dupree obviously might be the 4th edge rusher onto the field. Hayden Hurst, another guy I think you can nominate for this. Bradley Bozeman, I think, as well. But to me, the guy that's going to have the biggest impact one way or the other is going to be Kristian Fulton. And that is just because they are putting a lot of eggs in that basket. And if he doesn't work out there, if he looks like J.C. Jackson the first 6 weeks, it is going to be a Cam Hart. It is going to be a Dean Leonard that has to step into those shoes, and that's asking a whole lot. But since we had the same answer, let's get a bonus one here from Drew Bannon, who has a really, really good question. Who's the one player that each of you believe will be the biggest shock factor, which is awesome, the Chargers, shock factor, love that, to the league? Who will light it up and exceed expectations? As always, bolt up from your favorite military fan, Drew Bannon. We appreciate you, 4th of July, fighting for our country. We love you. David, who do you think could be the biggest shock factor? That's a good question.
I think a lot of people out here, especially in Chargers land, expect Ladd McConkey to come in and make an impact. But I think one of the guys that they're sleeping on is the guy that got drafted before Ladd McConkey. And I'm talking about right tackle Joe Alt.
Oh,
I think Joe Alt's going to come in, and he's going to come into training camp, and he's going to look like he's played right tackle for the last 3 years in college and not left tackle. I think this is a guy who's incredibly intelligent, has the size, has the strength, has the technical ability, and the want to be an impact guy right away. He was the consensus top offensive lineman in the draft, period, in my opinion. I feel like he is going to come in and he is going to shock a lot of people with how good he is how quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends what your expectations are, right?
Sure.
Like, to me, I wouldn't be shocked if Joe Alt's good. He's a 5th overall pick.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm hoping he's good, but I think the transition, the seamless transition to right tackle would at least be a little surprising, especially if he stonewalls TJ Watt and, Max Crosby in the first 3 weeks. That'd be pretty shocking.
I hope he does, Mike.
I ended up going with someone a little bit more off the radar, and I went with Hayden Hurst because I don't think anyone's expecting anything from him at this point.
That's good.
That's the reason I think when I was thinking shocking, because I had a hard time with this. I'm like, who would shock? Like, who would it really surprise me? Because you're right, Ladd McConkey has some off-season hype, has some buzz around him, right? And I almost expect him to have a really good season, like I've talked about. If he can stay healthy, I
feels
expect
like
a
it's a
good
foregone
season.
conclusion, right? Yeah.
Totally does. Hayden Hurst, how could you expect anything, right? Back to back, like really unhealthy, not being able to stay on the field season. We've heard how much the coaching staff believes in him, and then we're talking about a dude who is a first-round pick and has had a season in his career, although a few years ago that was even better than any season that Gerald Everett has ever had.
That's true.
To me, Hayden Hurst has space between him and the next best receiving option at tight end, at least in the coaches' minds right now. Like, I think they brought him in here for a reason, to be the main receiving tight end for this team.
Yeah.
We've seen a little bit out of OTAs, him making some big plays, him getting some of that chemistry with Justin Herbert. If those two can click, there's no doubt in my mind that Hayden Hurst could put up a 600-yard season in 2024.
Or even a career year. I mean,
that would be a career. He's never done it, right?
Yeah.
That, like he could easily have his best season in 2024 with Justin Herbert if he can stay on the field. And I think that would shock a lot of people.
Good pick.
If all of a sudden he's, a top 10 tight end in some of these receiving categories, and not many, tight ends are even putting up 600 receiving yard seasons. Gerald Everett's never had one. So that would be, I think it would shock a lot of people. And I think it's something that absolutely could happen. So let's get to the next one here from Mark Catlin, who's asking this, talking about offseason additions. Is Bradley Bozeman enough, or do we need to add some better competition there at center? I know he was a guest, and I'm happy he's an upgrade over Will Clapp, but I'm concerned about the depth. I mean, if he gets hurt, what's our move? And I think it's a great question, Mark, because I do think that the depth at center is probably one of the biggest under-talked about kind of depth concerns for this roster heading into the year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first and foremost, Bradley Bozeman's perfect for this system. He's a perfect fit because he's played in it and he's excelled in this system already. He knows exactly what's going on. He understands the offense. He knows the blocking schemes. He's already kind of, tailor-made for this position. But you know what also makes an offensive lineman's job at pass protecting easier? When they're able to run the ball and they're able to rip off big chunks on the ground, and then when they go into their pass blocking sets, they're a lot more effective because they're keeping the defense on their heels. That, I think, is also going to be part of the plan. But also, you got Brendan Hymas, who's switched to be a center. They've also spoken publicly about Jordan McFadden's ability to play center. In my opinion, every single backup offensive lineman should be cross-trained to play center, because that position, you have to have somebody that can come in and play that position if, God forbid, your center goes down with an injury. Everybody should have some cross-training at that position to try to mitigate the risk at least as much as you can. Every single team, if your starter gets hurt, then you're going to be in trouble. Your backup's never going to be as good as your starter is going to be. But yes, it is a concern.
Yeah, I agree. Well, first of all, I don't want Alex Leatherwood taking backup center snaps. I don't want Foster Sherrill taking backup center snaps. So I'm going to start there as far as every backup lineman cross-training there. Bradley Bozeman is perfect for what Greg Roman wants. I don't have any problem with them rolling into the season with Bradley Bozeman, and I think that, he's always been a really, really good run blocker, which is what you want him to be, and the biggest thing you're trying to improve. I think he had a bad pass protection season last year that is a little overblown and misleading because of the rookie quarterback that he was protecting for, and it'll be much, much better numbers, almost even if he blocked exactly the same as he did last year, now that he has Justin Herbert back there escaping some of that pressure. For the backup position, going into the season with Brendan Hymas and Jordan McFadden, who's never played center in an NFL game at all, right? That is a little sketchy. Like, the fact that we're just feeling content about Brendan Hymas, someone that has been actually ridiculed before because of the lack of play that he's had or just never being able to get on the field. You can't feel great about that. We'll have training camp and we'll get to see a little bit of it. But I do think that's a very valid question. If Bradley Bozeman goes down, like we've seen Corey Linsley miss games each of the last 2 seasons, what's the plan there? And Brendan Hymas and Jordan McFadden and those two guys just specifically, you're absolutely able to question that. Bucky Williams isn't making you feel better about that right now. If you get beat out by an undrafted free agent, good for Bucky Williams, but doesn't say much about the current depth that you have behind Bradley Bozeman, who, knock on wood, one of the reasons they got him was because of his durability. So hopefully, I have no problem with them rolling out Bradley Bozeman as a starting center. I love the fit.
Yeah.
Behind him, that's a couple of big question marks that, hopefully can prove themselves a little bit. But Brendan Heim has played in like a few games last year, a handful of games. It wasn't good enough to make me feel great about it. It was fine.
Yeah.
He had one good game, then followed it up with 2 subpar games that you wouldn't want if Justin Herbert was behind him and not Easton Stick. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. It's not enough of a sample size. We're talking about 3 NFL games basically at center between the 2 of those guys, which is really, really hard to have full confidence in. But that's life. That's life in the NFL, and we'll hope that it doesn't come back to haunt them. But that is going to wrap things up for today's show. We will be back with you guys on Monday, as always, with our buy or sell show. So we will get you guys on Locked On LAC on Twitter to get your guys' buy or sells on the show. You can also be like Athir and call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 and leave a 30-second question, leave a 30-second buy or sell, and you're likely to get it on the show. But thank you to the everydayers, and to make sure you never miss big shows like today's, go follow and subscribe on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find the show every day at Locked On LAC on Twitter, on my Twitter at Dan Talk Sports, and David's at Dro Talk SD, as well as on Instagram at Locked On Chargers and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. Thank you guys for joining us. Happy birthday, America. Happy 4th of July to all the Bolt fam out there and the Locked On Chargers everydayers. We will be back with you guys on Monday. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.